Okay, so this is going to be the second video and the first video of 2013. First thing I want to point out is not a hickey, it's a beauty mark, and I promise you will see it every time. So, stop staring. Second thing is, I'm going to talk about understanding, and then I'm going to talk about structure. And those sound really, really boring, and they kind of are if I don't project it correctly, but I'm going to try my best to, describe those things. So understanding is extremely important, or understanding something is extremely important because you're able to reconstruct that, convey that, teach that, and then also it's very stable, so you know that this is true type of thing. So when you understand something, you can do something with it, you can teach it, you can implement it, you can reconstruct it, and then you can put it in other things. Now, understanding something is not the same as knowledge. So there's people, everybody knows that guy that's like, Trivial Pursuit guy, Jeopardy guy, and rattle off all this trivia, and fine. That's useless by itself. So knowledge by itself, who cares? Understanding is a combination of knowledge and experience and, other things like that. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but it's this combination of things, that go into actually understanding and internalizing something. It's not just knowledge. So to understand something, you have to have this broader view, and that's and understanding structure is very, very important. So that's what I'm going to try and project here, is an understanding of what this structure thing is all about. And I'm going to go from an individual all the way up to the top. So here we go. So each person has their own internal structure. So they have these fears, they have these loves, they have experiences, they have influences, they have all of these things that have been put into them through a combination of, maybe their gifts, maybe their personality, maybe their experiences, maybe their childhood. All these things go in to create this internal structure within a person, okay? And everyone has those, so you can think of those. What do you love to do? Why do you do what you do? Where are you going? What is your mission? What is your goal? Those are your internal structure, and they're influenced by external things, and also internal things. Okay, and then if you have two people, then you have this this kind of combined structure. So, say, take your friend, or your family member, or a spouse, or a mentor, or whatever it may be. And between the two of you, you have this interacting structure, and that's combined with whatever each of your internal structures are. Now, if you have more than two people, you have this group structure. Okay, so you have a group structure dynamic, and you can think of that in like a company or in a church or whatever it is. You have your divisions or your groups or whatever, and it's a combination of people. And again, you have a group, combination of people, you have interaction between the people, and then inside each person you have their own internal structure. So hopefully I'm starting to paint this picture in your mind. So we're at group, and then you go to organization. An organization can be a church, a nonprofit, a business, whatever, and that has this is composed of groups, and groups are composed of interacting people, and interacting people are composed of individual people. So again, you see that hierarchy. So organizations are different in that they have a mission or an objective, and their mission or objective uses people or relies on people to complete that. So you have to now combine people, groups of people, internal people, with this mission objective. And so that's harder, and so the structure becomes more complex. So then you go higher to organization. Higher than organization is inter-organizational structure. So take a supermarket, for example. In the morning they deliver, the bread, the produce from farmers or whatever, the products, merchandise, and they're financed by some bank or by some bank, and they have lawyers to handle things, and they have all these things. So they have suppliers, logistics, support, all these things, and so each of those are their own little their own organizations, right? And so now you have all these organizations working together to create something. Okay, then on top of that you have governments. Okay, so you have governments that set regulations, too many often, and they also are also in charge of imposing law and things like that. And so they're supposed to help these other structures. However, another video, but they're doing a terrible, terrible job. Another video. So you have the government structures, and you have a hierarchy of government. You have local, state, federal, national, world, etc. And so that's their role, and their role is to not manage all these, but to set some rules. Okay, And then on top of that, you have, this spiritual God, what's this all about structure, okay? And so you can see all the way from the individual person all the way to the top, there are these structures that you see along the way, right? And they're all interacting, actually. They're not all isolated. And so when you have all these interacting things, it becomes very, very complex and it can become overwhelming. But if you understand those structures and you really understand them, so you have experience in different areas, you have knowledge about them, you have, this background of analytics or qualitative, quantitative things that you're able to kind of figure out what's going on, what's really going on there with this social structure and physical world structure and spiritual structure. What you begin to see is that, and I'm kind of coming from engineering and also business and all this other stuff, that you're actually, it's just this big skyscraper, this structure, this big thing. And you can actually go in and affect that structure. And you can identify weaknesses in that structure. Or you can identify strong points in that structure. Or you can find places that need to be reconfigured. And so when you can go in like that with precision, what you can do is you can really change things. And so when you see that, say you see a point over here, you figure out, okay, how do I affect that point? Who is in charge of that point? Or how are organizations centered around that? Or what are incentives around that point? And what you'll find is that once you unravel that, and it can all be unraveled, what you'll find is that you can do a precision strike on that point. And you can affect that point. And that point is supporting all these other points. And it's kind of like it's a game of, I'm trying to think of a good game. It's not Tetris. Tetris probably isn't the right game, but you can do this thing where you're pulling pieces, you're changing things, and what that requires, though, because the structure is so large, it requires a lot of people, okay? But it requires people understanding the structure, understanding their roles, understanding the mission, understanding the objective, and going after, particular portions of that structure. But the basis for all of that is understanding. Each person, needs to understand how things really work, or understand how, things really are, or understand what's really going on, or all these things. So with understanding, a group of people understanding and having a concerted objective, you can affect the entire world structure. Now that sounds very, very bold, but it's absolutely true. And so that's kind of what this experiment is about, is that structure and that ideas around that. And I'm going to paint the portrait of how that can be done. So it's going to be a pretty interesting series. And with that, I'm going to end the video, and I will hopefully talk to you in about a week and add some more information to that.